Happy Sunday, everybody. Is our week 6 project, if I can math, which math is a challenge for me. So we're going to give everyone a chance to kind of get set up here. And I am going to get my iPad set up so that I can see everybody's comments as we go. There we go. I am all set up. And also my apologies, like my tripod thing is like kind of loosey-goosey today and it keeps like lilting to one side. So this is kind of as straight as I can get it for tonight. So hopefully it's not going to act a full force for the rest of the evening, but we are ready to go. So this is this week's project, little bear sleep masks. This is probably the first time I have these stitched up like ahead of time that my daughter hasn't stolen from me. 2 sizes are in the files. This is the adult size, and this will even fit, it'll fit most kids too, but if you have like a toddler or a really petite little nugget, this will fit too. This is the 5x7 size, and this is the 6x10 size. So this will fit an adult, and these do my daughter actually prefers. She's 9 and she prefers the larger size. And my friend's son was over here this weekend, and he stole a sleep mask from me too, a different one, and he is 4, and this was a little small on him, but this actually still fit him well too. And the way that the elastic did, it was pretty good too. So with these, we're going to use fleece for our mask tonight. I just saw someone pop up and say hi, and then it went away. Oh, Nancy. Hi, Nancy. And I am burning up down here tonight. Like it was like 80 degrees outside, and I'm not prepared for like mid-October to be 80 degrees. So I'm like still sweating. But we'll get through it together. So I have my fleece cut already. I have my stabilizer hooped in the machine. You honestly, with these, I prefer tearaway. But you can use cutaway on these. It's not a huge deal. It's just if you don't use a tearaway, you're going to have some cutaway left over on the inside, which isn't a really big deal. Let's give you a little more structure if you want it. I'm actually going to use my Badge Master, which I've used a million times on these. It is a heavy water-soluble stabilizer, and I use it all the time for things instead of tearaway, because I don't really like tearaway that much. So I'll be using that, but you can use tearaway, cutaway, whatever you want to use. Just keep in mind, if you use a cutaway, it'll be left inside your mask when you're done. So, and these are not, where did this go? My iPad's like being, like, I see a comment, there we go. So there's, hi Mona, Kit, Betty, okay, there are my comments. I'm like, I know, I kept seeing them pop up and they would disappear on the screen, and I'm like, well, that's not very helpful for me. Oh, 103 Angie, no. And I actually, and so what'll happen is when it gets cold around here, I'll be complaining about the cold, but I honestly would much rather the heat, but I don't know about 103. But, all right, I digress. So I've got my materials cut. I'm going to use fleece. This is actually a minky for both the front and the back of mine. You can also use, if you want on the back of the mask, you can get some satin, which is what I have on the back of this here is a satin. If you want more of like a kind of a luxe feeling, to be super fancy, this stuff's pretty cheap at the fabric store too. Don't get the super expensive stuff. Get the cheap kind of costumey satin. You'll still get that same feel in the back of your masks, especially if you get hot when you sleep. The fleece on both sides can get kind of hot, so I like to use the satin on these as well. If you want a thicker mask than what you're even getting with the fleece, you can always use some batting on the inside too. So, see, my comments keep going away on me. It's like it's freezing up on me. There it is. All right, so for this, I've got my materials cut. I have got my, well, I had my elastic cut and it walked away from me. Where'd you go? Oh my gosh, I even picked out the color elastic that I wanted to match this and everything. And it has since disappeared. Well, I'll cut a piece again when we get going. But if you're doing the 6x10 mask for an adult, you're going to want to use a 12-inch elastic is what you want your fold over elastic cut to. If you don't have fold over elastic, you can use regular elastic too. This is just a little softer and you can get the pretty patterns on this. If you are using the child size mask, the 5x7, cut your elastic to 10. If you have a child in particular that you can measure their noggin, if maybe they have a bigger noggin or a smaller noggin, but I find the 10-inch is pretty good. This does get stretchy, but you don't want it to be stretching so much that's like tight and uncomfortable on them. Hi Carol, thanks for popping in. Enjoy your turkey. Have a drink for me too while you're there. Hi Kelly. All right, so we're ready to rock and roll. Materials cut. When you cut your minky or your fleece, pay attention to the direction of the fabric that you're cutting. You want to make sure that the direction of the grain of your fabric, the stretch, is going to go horizontal across your mass. So when you cut it, when you check your material, usually with minky, you'll have one direction that stretches pretty well and one that doesn't stretch very well at all. You want that stretch to go horizontal across your mass. So check that when you cut it out, just so it'll be a little more comfortable on too. All right, so now we are gonna swing over. And again, sorry if you get seasick, look away. I've been having issues getting this tripod set up today. So, apologize, I'm gonna swing you over and it's like looking at my chest now because it doesn't wanna swing over. There we go. Don't look yet if you get seasick. And I'll lower this down, move this. And am I on screen yet? Almost. There we go. All right, I'm gonna try and tighten this up. It was like swinging loose on me before, but I think we're good. Except for you don't want to see my dirty floor down there. So let's see if I can get this a little bit better in screen. There we go. All right, we made it. I still think you could come over a little bit more. There. And my dirty hoop. It's fine. It's all fine. All right, so here we are. I've got the design loaded in my machine. I'm going to be doing the 6x10 size, the adult size. Materials are cut, so I'm using that Badge Monster stabilizer. Again, you can use tearaway or cutaway, just your preference on these. I'm going to run the very first step of the design, which is my placement stitches. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, it's kind of optional, but I'm going to highly recommend it, is when we get into this, much like we did with the stuffies, if you're using a fleece or a minky, I'm going to recommend using a water-soluble stabilizer topper, just so that the stitches as we go through don't get kind of eaten by the minky, since the minky has kind of a heavier nap to it. I don't want to get lost in the fur. But, okay, so first step's done. Second step is going to tack down our front material here. I'm going to go ahead and switch to same color as my material here, just to tack that down. I like to try and match as much as possible. It should all get covered, but it's just a habit I am into, making sure my thread matches material. So next step here, I'm going to tack down this first piece of fleece. Hi, Terry. And with this too, if you need to, you can adjust your presser foot height too. If you find that the material is kind of thick and it's getting drugged by the presser foot, you can always, if your machine allows you to adjust it, you can raise it a little bit, which I'll probably do if I add some more when I add the backing here, but I think we're good for now. Yeah, that's right side up, my bad. Thank you, Kit. Yeah, so put your material on your hoop right side up. Run around the outside twice just to tack that down to our stabilizer so the material doesn't shift as we go on. All right, so now we are on to step 3. So our next portion is going to be those ears, the applique ears. So I am going to put a color in that I can see on that white. So I'm going to put a pink in so I can make sure I can see my placement stitches clearly. All right. So we're on step 3. So these are just our placement stitches for our ears. I got some pink cut out for the ears. And I'd like to know where the elastic that I already cut for this mask wandered away to. It was just here. It's gone. I'll cut elastic in a second. All right, so now we've got our placement stitches down. I don't know if you can see the hoop that far back, but these are going to be our placement stitches for our applique pieces here and here. And you're going to start down, just put your material with this on the applique pieces. The direction of the fabric isn't that important as it's just such a small area. It's not really going to stretch over the face like the regular part of the mask is. So however you want to do it. But go ahead and put your material down, making sure that you cover up all those placement stitches. And you can use a much smaller piece than I did, but this is what I cut. All right, so put your fabric, oh my gosh, your fabric down over your placement stitches and go ahead and run the next step to tack down those pieces. Just watch when you get to that second piece. I'm actually gonna stop once this ear stitch is down, just to make sure my presser foot doesn't get stuck on that material. So this will tack this down. I'm just gonna watch it. Since we are using thicker materials, just make sure my foot doesn't get hung up on that. So, got my finger on the stop button if I need it. And then I'll readjust the fabric if I need to. Nope, but I'm good. Oh, I should have done like little blue ears. I needed a little polar bear, but I didn't. It's fine. All right, so we're ready to cut our excess fabric away from those stitches. And these are my good applique scissors. I don't know. What are my good applique scissors? All right, I'm gonna try and do this on camera, but it's a weird angle, so we will see if I can manage to do this on camera. But take your applique scissors and go ahead and trim all that excess away. These are not my good applique scissors. Those are the dull ones. I'm actually gonna throw these away because I always forget which one's the dull ones, and I set them to the side, and then we do this about 10 times a week. There we go. These are my good ones. All right. So with this, just be careful you don't cut into your stitches. I can't really see what I'm doing because I'm in an angle here off camera. So I might need to take a couple times around on this to really get in there. And that is okay. Minkier can be a little trickier to cut and get close, so you may have to do a couple passes to make sure it's as close as you want it to be, and that's all right. Just take your time, get in there. And like here, I'm gonna get a little closer in a couple spots. Still making sure I'm not cutting into my stitches. And it's gonna make a mess if you're using minky or fleece, and that's okay, that's just what it does. And I'm kind of off camera now, so I apologize, but can't really see what I was doing at the angle that I was at. I'm gonna pull it off for a second so I can see a little better. Way easier this way. All right, again, I'm just gonna go in, take any areas off that I cut a little wonky, and try and get as close to those stitches as I can get without cutting into the stitches. If you cut a little bit into the nap of the minky, it's okay too, because a lot of that's gonna get covered by your satin. But just try and get as close to the stitches as you can get. And then just try and swipe off any extra fuzz you got going on there. All right, so I am here now. This is about the point in time that I want to consider adding my water-soluble topper, because as we go through, that's going to help keep those stitches from kind of getting buried and embedded in that minky so that we can see them cleaner. So I'm going to grab my topper now. So you can use either the nicer kind of mesh stuff, or you can use a plastic topper, whatever you have. Go ahead and put that down. Secure that well, but here's my tip for securing that down. I like to go back to the very first step and use that as kind of a basting stitch to hold my stabilizer down, my topper down, so that I don't have to tape it or pin it or anything else. So if you don't want to take the time to secure that topper down with some pins or some tape, just do what I'm doing. Just go all the way back to step one. It's just that single runaround for placement, and that will get your topper attached down. And with this stuff too, it kind of shifts really badly. So I kind of just keep my hands kind of close here, so I can kind of gently stretch it out so it doesn't get wrinkled up on me. It doesn't need to be perfect, but I don't want any huge areas of wrinkles that my foot might get stuck on, or that might trip up into my stitches a little bit. So it doesn't need to be exact. It can be a little wonky, it's fine. My topper down. I don't worry about it shifting. It's not going to get caught on my foot. It's out of the way, and I don't have to tape it or pin it. Hi, Piera. Hi, Misty. All right, so I'm going to go back to where I was, which is step 5, which is our satin portion to cover up our little pink fabric on our ears. If I can find a good pink. Oops, or I can throw a thread at you too. That might work. All right, so I got pink for my ears, and I'm gonna run this next step. And while the satin is running on these, I'm actually gonna recut my elastic, since it just disappeared. I just cut it before I put it live, and it's gone. So while that's running, I'm gonna go cut more elastic. plastic is cut now on my table, so let's hope that it doesn't walk away by the time we get back over there. See, now I'm wishing I had done like blue for the ears. You feel like a little polar bear, but it's fine. We're going pink. Part where we wait for the satin to stitch. But for those of you following along my machine drama, we are driving to Michigan this week to drop off my machine, my good machine, to be fixed. We were initially going to ship it out and then pick it up when it was done, but we went up to UPS to price shipping it, and it was like they wanted $600 to ship it. So I will drive 3 hours and 45 minutes. I'm not paying that both ways to have it shipped. So, but good news is they think they already know what's wrong with it, and they'll get it fixed within a couple weeks, and I should be up hopefully mid-November by the time I can get back up there again. So I'm excited. We're back to making big stuffies again. Ellie is gonna, in fact, she stole the bear mask already, and I had to ask her to bring it back down to me so I could show you on the live, because she'd already taken it. So Jennifer, I use Badgemaster for my bottom stabilizer, just so I don't want to deal with having to tear away the little piece of tear away. It makes me crazy. And then I just have plastic copper for the water soluble stabilizer on top. But you can use tear away too. I'm just lazy and I didn't really want to deal with all those little pieces of tear away, getting fuzzy. It makes me twitchy. All right, one ear just about done. Well, Nancy, we're glad you made it. You didn't miss too much. We just put the stuff down, so you can probably, it won't take you long to catch up later, I promise. Because as usual, I just talk too much. So Jennifer, Badgemaster is amazing, but I would say skip the brand name Badgemaster because it's super expensive. If you go to allstitch.com, they have their own brand of Badgemaster. I don't know what they call it, but it's the same thing and it's a fraction of the cost. Because brand name Badgemaster, which I think is made by Sulky maybe, is so expensive. But this stuff is no more expensive than just like cutaway or tear away. So I get huge rolls of it. Because I would not be using it for everything if I was actually having to buy like the brand name Badgemaster. Badgemaster is, yeah, Kelly, that's a huge roll. It's so worth it. Badgemaster is a heavy-duty water-soluble stabilizer. It acts, honestly, almost like a cutaway because it will stand up to super dense stitches for you. But also, it is water-soluble, so you can just like soak away the excess. But I'll show you when we're done here. A lot of times you can just tear it away once it's done. But I use it for patches. It's my favorite for patches. I like it for stuffies, so I don't have to deal with the tearing things away. I don't want cutaway on stuffies because I'm going to get stuff inside because it's not really soft and stretchy. But it's this clear stuff that you can see kind of here that's in my hoop. Yeah, the roll that's like $60, it's like $50 or something, I think. I mean, it's a big roll. And it lasts a while. I think it's like maybe 18 inches by 50 yards, if I'm not mistaken. So especially if you're doing patches and you're doing like a 4x4 hoop, that will last forever. Melissa, if you've got the no-show mesh, you can use that for stuffies too. It works great, but no-show mesh is actually a little pricier, I think, than the Badge Master. And honestly, I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to have to wash it before I stuff it and use it. But you can absolutely, yeah, no-show mesh is also a really good option for stuffies. This is just my preference, but it's not any better than the no-show mesh for stuffies. I just like it because I can tear away at the end, like a tear away, but it doesn't leave all that like little piece of paper kind of fluff in the stitches. A tear away can sometimes. And patches are not as hard as you think, I promise. They're really not. It's literally 90% of patches is the right materials. And once you have the right materials for it, like they're so easy. I did on the first skill builder, we did patches. I don't know what week it was on there, but if you go to the events tab, we did talk about patches and like what materials to use, and you can kind of see it. I may even have another video up on my YouTube for patches, but I promise they seem really intimidating, but they're really not. They just take a lot of stitch because there's just so many stitches with them. Almost done. Well, at least with the ears, not with the mask. Almost done with the ears. Alright, so our ears are done, and our next step here is our eyes and our little mouth for the nose. So I am going to grab, do I want black, or is that's really harsh on the, I don't know. I think way too much about colors. Like entirely too much about colors. I'm going to go with a gray. And I may regret this, but I'm going to go with the gray. I don't know why I'm like this, but I think entirely too much about colors and how they look together. Because I'm sure black would have been totally fine, but this is how I am. Melissa, that's really sweet. You should do it. Like, I would do, before you use, like, the good materials, like, stitch one out on materials that you don't care about, just to make sure you've got the whole process down. But they're a lot easier than you think. Oh, Christine, overthinking is my superpower. I'm so good at it. I'm better at that than anything else in the whole wide world. Someone remind me after this stuff, I want to check my bobbin, because I was like half full. And watch me run out here when we start getting to these fill areas, and I will hate my life. So I'm making this a collective group effort to remind me to check my bobbin when we're done with this step. Like, I'm not sure. Maybe I mentioned this design. It was something about, like, you know, what sort of worry about? And my anxiety is like, well, I'm glad you asked. I think I did that. I need to make it a sweatshirt. Oh, Nancy, me too. I pick them out. I think I have them all, and then I start seeing how they work. And I'm like, nope, I don't like that. Thread Art is my preferred shop to get thread from. Their thread is pretty inexpensive. Like, they have sales all the time that makes them like $2.50 a spool. They have this huge selection of colors. Even my like more particular machine likes the thread. But the issue is that I get on the sales and I order like, oh, I like this color, oh, I need this color. And then by the time that I'm said and done, I have like 7 of the same color that I didn't need any more of. I just really liked that color, I guess, and I wanted 7 of them. So like a drawer down here of like, you can see where it says thread. That's like, actually it's not bad. That's kind of shoved back there, but yeah, that's like all the extra threads that I have 7 of each color. There's a box over there, 2 of them. Yeah, and there's honestly no right or wrong with colors. Like, you just got to do what you want to do. And sometimes, like, I'll pick one out and be like, I'm not sure it's going to work, but I'm going to try it. And then I loved it. Other times I'm like, oh, I made a bad choice. But I think I am happy with the gray. I like the gray. And I know if you guys didn't watch the, if you guys didn't do the first go builder when we went over the stuffies and stuff, when we're using this fleece and this minky, when you don't use this topper, the material tends to kind of eat those stitches and they kind of get buried and they don't really pop on that fleece or minky. So that's why we're using that topper, so that it will stand out and you can still see them. Jennifer, you're supposed to be packing. We had this conversation earlier. I tried to put my threads all in color order, and I think they are for the most part, but then every now and again, like, I'll have one random, let's say a pink one out, and I'll order my thread and I'll find these spools over here I forgot about, and now I don't have a spot for them. So instead of me redoing it all again, I'll just have a random pink and a blue area. It's fine. It's all fine. Step is done, and I'm gonna be good, and I'm gonna check my bobbin real quick because I don't trust it to be, oh no, I don't think that's gonna make it, and it would inevitably run out halfway through a fill area. And thank you thank you, Jennifer. And it will I will never get it right to the exact stitch, and then I'll have a gap somewhere in the fill. Or when I think I'm being real slick, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to go over it again. And then, like, you can see where I went over it again. I always make bad choices. So I'm trying to be responsible now. For once. I'm usually not. Make sure I've got a full bobbin in here. All right. So this is also your reminder at home in between steps. If you didn't before you start, check your bobbin. Don't be like me. Like I am normally anyways. All right. Okay. All right, so we got our eyes, we got our nose, or our mouth. We're gonna go on to the nose. I think I'm gonna use the same pink I used for the, so I know I have a color stop between the nose and the cheeks, and that's in case you did wanna do different colors, but I think I'm gonna go with the same color for both. But he would be cute with a blue nose too. Like if I did the polar bear colors and did like the blue ears and a blue nose and pink cheeks, but we're just gonna go with all pink. All right. Thank you, Nancy. Everybody, it was a good choice. I was worried, but it played off. It worked out. Kelly, so on my good machine that I miss so much, it's easier because it's got the LED light, so I can kind of see where I need to go a little better. Even then, I'm not great at it. I still mess it up all the time. Thanks, Jennifer. My daughter will probably steal this too. These are our longest steps left. I got 4 minutes on my machine for the nose, and I've got 7 for the cheeks. I do have, I know you guys have heard this now a million times from me, but I have my machine speed cranked way down. I don't like stitching fast. I feel like I get better results on my machine stitching at a slower pace, so mine's set at like 400, I think, which I know if Michelle was here, she would be laughing at me. Telling me I'm stitching like a 90-year-old, but it's fine. I'm okay with my choices. I know, Kit, right? She, well, honestly, her and her besties, they have so much of my stuff all the time that she'll come home from school and be like, oh, so-and-so saw this and wants you to make it for them. I'm like, that's really sweet, but I'm not going to be doing that. I can show you how to make it, but I'm not making it. It's like my oldest too, like comes down at 10 o'clock the night before school, the sweatshirt he really wanted to wear, like the kangaroo pocket ripped off, and he's like, can you fix this? 10 o'clock at night. I did, but I was in bed and I didn't appreciate that. This is a 6x10, Jennifer. And honestly, the 6x10 is my preferred size because it will work on kids and adults. The 5x7 is for like little peanut kids, like little toddlers. I would say 4 and under. Obviously, don't put this on a baby, that'd be bad. But like, you know, preschoolers, that's fine. But even with the like 5 and up, like the adult size will fit on them as well too. It's just a little big. I don't know if you can see, and this will work out when I take the topper and everything off. The foot will get out of the way. Of course, it's going to go real slow. I want to show you where the topper's kind of coming up a little bit, which is fine. But what you can see is you can kind of make it out. If you get my finger there. Do you see this little bit of fleece coming up right there? And that's okay, because now since we put topper down, it's going to be pushed out of the way of those stitches. If we didn't, that would kind of get eaten into the stitches right there. So that's why we use the topper. So we're on to the cheeks. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and just stick with the same color pink on mine. But if you want to swap out colors, feel free to do that. Can you see right here what I'm talking about? Pull it off and you can see a little better. Right here where you see that, see how on one side it kind of lays over? If we didn't have this topper here, see where this is right here? This would all be kind of mangled in there. So that topper keeps it nice and clean so those stitches don't get distorted by the material. All right. Move all the stuff back out of the way and go on to the cheeks. My husband and son are upstairs watching the Bengals play football, and I have not yet heard any yelling, so I'm assuming that is a good sign. If anyone's watching, I'd love you if you pop in the score for me for the Bengals game, but I know it just started, so I feel like no news is good news and no yelling is good news. One thing I didn't mention the materials too, I'm going to actually glue mine shut with Fabri-Tac. I think it's pretty easy on these to do it this way. That's the way that my mini stuffies and stuffies too. You can absolutely hand stitch the opening closed if you want to, but I don't have time for that, and I'm really, really bad at hand stitching openings closed. It is super messy when I do it. You can also machine stitch it closed too, but I don't want to see the stitches along the top. So I am going to glue mine. But you can use your preferred method for closing the turning hole. So don't feel like you have to use glue to shut it if you don't like using the glue. Oh, yes, thank you, Nancy. And the other Nancy, thank you. So I'm surprised I didn't hear like some people hollering up here then. Kelly, you're bad at the glue and I'm bad at the backing up, so it all works out. I know when I did mug rugs, I talked about some stuff. I think it's called Fuse a Seam or something. Oh my gosh, I can't think of what it's called. Nor can I find it at this moment in time in my billion things of my extra rubber. Can I find it for that? Oh wait, yeah, I do. I wouldn't use it on the sleep mask because it's not really work on that fleece. But if you're doing like fabric, say you're using quilting cotton, you can get this stuff. I think it's called Fuse a Seam, and it's basically it's kind of a fusible adhesive. So what you would do is you would put it on like the area of the turning hole once you have it turned, and you would just hit it with a hot iron and press it, and it kind of melts this to close that turning hole. But don't use that on the minky because I think it's just going to be a mess. I don't think it's really going to have a strong enough adhesive to keep that closed for you. But if you were doing this in fabric, which you can, it would be a good option. And I think I've had this roll for like probably 6 years. I don't use it very often, and it's just a small amount you need. Maybe like $5 at the fabric store. It's also really great if the hem comes on your pants and you don't feel like sewing it. You use this. Yeah, that's the iron-on stuff. Seam a Seam, that's it. Thank you, Kit. I knew it was something a seam. Alright, we're onto our last cheek, and I'm going to grab my elastic, make sure it hasn't walked away again, and some tape. Yeah, it might even be called hem tape too. I think there's a couple different like versions. This stuff that I'm talking about, I think is sold in like the quilting section, but I'm pretty sure it's probably the same thing as like hem tape that you would get with the other stuff. It's all the same thing. Hey, Bella. All right, we're on our last cheek. So go ahead, and if you have not already cut your elastic, go ahead and do that. Get that and grab your masking tape. That's going to be our next step. It's almost done. While this is finishing, do you guys want to see a sneak peek of next week's wallet? It's ready, and I will probably get it up earlier this week. I've been like early with the designs lately. I'm like impressed with myself actually. But I do have it ready. They're not, these are my prototypes. They're not perfect, so keep that in mind. But where's my other one? It is a, can you see? It's a foldable wallet, and you open it up, and it's got 2 pockets on either side. This stitch should not be there. It will not be there if you follow directions when I do it, but I don't follow my own directions well. So pretend that this stitch is not here, but it'll hold 2 cards on each side. You can put more than one in there too, but do I even have a card down here? I don't know that I do. I've got a random like this, but yeah, so it'll be, and this is a prototype, so these pockets aren't quite right, but it'll actually be in here like this. So pretend that stitching isn't there, and you'll have another one here, and it will be foldable, so like a little billfold. And I can't find my other one, but the pockets are actually, I did them correctly. Why am I losing everything today? Lost my elastic, I lost the other wallet, but it is done. Oh, here it is. I found it. So here's the other one where the pockets are actually correct, where you don't have that like line of stitching in there. But this is, it'll be 5x7 hoop, but it's super easy. It's 1 hooping, not 2 hoopings. So you only get done, I think, in like 7 minutes, pretty quick. So that is that wallet, and I'll stop blathering on about it now. All right, so we are ready to do the placement for our elastic. So go ahead and keep a contrast color in so you can see. If you are going to switch back to the same color stitching when we do the final outline, which I'd recommend, don't do that yet. Go ahead and keep a contrast color in so you can see. And we are going to go ahead and just stitch the placement stitches down so we can see where to place our elastic. Unlike the other designs we've done with elastic, we will not be tacking down the elastic. Since there's really not a lot of tension or anything on it, it's just to give us a placement as to where to tape it. My favorite places to get vinyl, I'm not in frame. Oh, shoot. What did I miss? Did you see it? All right, so my favorite place to get vinyl is either So Unique Designs. My favorite vinyl ever is her Diamond Dust. It's magical. It stitches everything. Satins, denser designs. It's great. I also like So Hungry Hippie. Just make sure that you don't get her soft vinyls because they're more for sewing than for embroidery. But she gets gumdrop in sometimes, which is amazing. And this right here is actually from So Hungry Hippie. And the inside, this stuff here is Diamond Dust from So Unique Design. All right. So we are ready. We have our placement stitches down. If you can see right here on the sides for our elastic, go ahead and grab your elastic. Again, I did 12-inch cut for the adult, the 6x10 size. Do about 10 inches for the child size, the 5x7. Go ahead and lay this face down. So if you're using a pretty elastic, make sure that pretty side is down on your mask and just place it so that it's centered over that placement stitch there. And you're just going to tape that in place on the one side. I'm actually going to tape it from the inside, and I'm going to tape it on the outside just so it doesn't shift on me. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side here. Kind of bring this in and go over your placement lines here. Tape it in place. Just that line is just to give you a center point, is to know where to kind of center that. And then I like to tape it maybe with actually a decent sized piece of tape. And I like to tape it on the inside too, just so it's all going to be in there. And then take any excess elastic you have, just kind of fold it up and just give it a little, one more little piece of tape there in the middle so that it doesn't get kind of pulled down. You don't want it to get like drugged down there and get caught in your stitching. So just get it up out of the way and just tape it down. So you have your elastic all down here. It's secured down. We are now going to add our backing. So our backing piece is actually going to go on the top side of our hoop, and it's going to go right side down. So just like that front piece, make sure that we've cut a material, our stretch is horizontal across the mask. Just lay that down, right side down, directly over everything. Just pop that in. This is where I'm going to take a second and I am going to raise my presser foot height just a little bit, because I got two layers of minky here. It gets a little thick. And I am going to switch to a thread that's the same color as my material. Oh, sorry, it's hit the phone. I'm like sweating down here. I actually don't heat to the elastic ends. I've never had a problem with them because it's going to be caught in the stitching pretty well. But if you're really worried about it, because I don't find that the fold over elastic frays too much, but if you want to, you can. I do the heat sealing more for like zippers and things like that, but I haven't had issue with the elastic fraying. So if you maybe your elastic does, or if you're worried about it, like ribbon and stuff, I would, but not so much for the elastic. And we are going to go ahead and run our last step here. And I saw a couple questions that I'm going to answer once I'm kind of going with this too. I just want to make sure with my hand too, don't get your hand stitched over, that my fabric's not going to get bunched up. So with the soft vinyl, so with Sew Hungry Hippie, she sells a lot of vinyl for sewing. And it'll even say soft vinyl on there, but it's not the best for embroidery because it's really flexible. So it's almost like a fabric with like, it's more of a fabric than it is the vinyl that you're going to use for embroidery. It like literally will crunch up in your hands. Like it's awesome for sewing. It's fantastic. But for embroidery, it tends to stretch. It has a stretch to it. And you don't really want that when you're using projects that require vinyl for embroidery, because it can distort the design and it just makes it harder to use. So you're going to look for vinyls that are, that will say specifically for embroidery, or for companies that, you know, will tell you what kind of embroidery to use on it, whether it's appropriate for satin stitches, appliques, things like that. I tend to like marines and canvas backed vinyls. So if you're in doubt, you can start with the marine vinyl. That's going to be your easiest thing if you're not 100% sure when you like find a random fabric or random vinyl online. Start with marine, not just a faux vinyl, because if you're not buying from a company that is experienced with embroidery, they may not tell you exactly the best uses of their vinyl. Like if you go to Amazon and they say like vinyl, faux leather, like you really don't know quite what you're getting. So I would stick with companies that like have customers that do embroidery. So Sew Unique Design, Sew Hungry Hippie, there's Flex the Marine Vinyl. Their stuff's really good for it. Glitterbug Berry, they do a lot of stuff with embroidery. And I'm sure there's others too, but those are the ones that are popping into my head right now. But if you go to Sew Unique Designs, one thing she does great with her listings, she'll tell you what type of, see that? I almost got my finger. What type of embroidery that vinyl is best suited for. If it's too stretchy or too soft, she'll even say like this isn't suited for appliques or things like that. All right. It's all done. Now we just got to trim it out and put it together. So I'm going to pop this out of my hoop and I'm going to swing it over to my table. I'm sweating bullets. And I'm going to go through the whole song and dance of moving my phone around again. And hopefully I've not dropped you guys tonight, which is like it's like 2 weeks in a row. It's amazing. All right, but I'm going to swing you around. So if you get seasick, look away. Come over here, look at my floor. All right, and I'm here, very, very crooked. There. Ah, that's not too bad. Look at that. That's not too bad for me. Oof. Okay. I am here. And I have my mask here. I'm going to go ahead and just pop everything out of my hoop. I really tightened that in there. Yay me. So go ahead and get all that out. Onto the Badge Master. What I like about this, obviously besides it's awesome for stitching on, is you can treat it like a tearaway too. Just find an area and it'll tear away from your stitches. Just like a tearaway. It just might be a little cajoling, and any little bits that don't get torn away, you can soak off. But see, when I pull this away, I don't have those little tiny pieces of paper like the tearaway does on me. That makes me crazy. But and if you're using cutaway on that, that's fine too. Your mask's just gonna have a little bit more stability to it. I really don't feel like peeling every little piece out right now as I'm standing here. But I am. I'm like off camera doing this, I'm sorry. It's like off to the side on me. Okay, so from here, go ahead and just pull off I should have pulled off my topper before I stitched on there, but it's fine. I'll just do that now. Just one less thing to cut away. All right, so from here, we're gonna go ahead and trim off our excess materials. I want you, if you have some small scissors, I want you to grab those too, because we're gonna need them in a second. I'm gonna show you a little trick. Those of you that sew will already know this, but when you start cutting this, our turning hole here, I do not want you to trim right up close to this, okay? This turning hole, we're actually gonna leave a little bit of an excess of material and make it easier to turn. So go ahead and start kind of away from your turning hole a little bit and just trim your material as close to the stitches as you can get without actually cutting into your stitches. Usually I go about an eighth of an inch away or so. The fleece gets a little more of a challenge. I might have to go see, look, I already missed a piece here. It's fine. We can go a couple passes around. No big deal, just to get this trimmed up. I hear my dog snoring in the background. Can you see? I'm like right, so the phone's kind of like to my right instead of right in front of me, so I'm trying to keep it in frame, but puts me in an odd angle cutting too. And I'll be so mad if I cut into my stitches. So I'm here at my turning hole. From here, I'm gonna leave that excess. So here's my turning hole piece. I'm gonna leave at least an inch or so of excess here at the top of this. And I need to go around and clean this up a little bit, see where I kind of did a crappy job when it got stuck under me here. Minky can do that sometimes because it just gets kind of caught. And it's gonna be everywhere. You're gonna be covered in Minky. It's fine. It's all fine. All right, I think I am good. All right, now grab those small scissors that I was talking about. Or big scissors if you're feeling really brave. So when, and those of you that sew will already know this, when you're in a corner like this, you're actually gonna snip kind of really deep into that corner, just one line, but you do not want to cut that actual stitching. So take your scissors, your small ones, and cut as close as you can. Just one straight line up there into that corner, You can see not just went to the Mickey. Do the same thing on all those corners. Just take your small scissors, get up in there. Can you see? Don't want to cut my stitches, but I want to go as far in there as I can. I need my better applique scissors. They're not cutting it for me. And you can use big scissors for that, but I am not that brave because I would 1000% cut into my stitches if I did that. Do the same thing over here. Need to trim that up a little better here too. That's okay. But make sure I've got all those little corners. I've cut into them, and that'll help it lay nicer when you turn this. I just saw an area, oh, here it is. I'm like, I just saw an area that like I did not trim cleanly on. There we go. And honestly, my small scissors, I'm gonna be brave. My small scissors didn't get as close as I wanted to, so I'm gonna use my big ones. Cross your fingers, I don't cut into my stitches here. That one did. This one did not. All right, so now that I have Minky everywhere, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this. So turn your mask right side out now, through that turning hole. And it's still gonna look a mess for a second because you've got topper on there, you've got tape on your elastic. It's okay, it's all gonna work out. So I'm gonna pull the tape off, pull my topper off, make a huge mess. All right, now we gotta make sure we pop those ears out. You can use your finger, or if you got a turning tool, you can use that too, but this isn't so exact on this, so your finger should be okay. The smaller one might be a little trickier without a little pokey thing. If we are talking about like poking some smaller areas out, I like to use a wooden chopstick or just something kind of blunt. You don't want anything sharp to turn those areas that are being a little more difficult, that don't want to just turn out with your fingers, but this one's fine. All right, so here's our guy here. Here's our little bear. I'm like, oh, there it is. All right, oh, and see right here, I need to turn this a little more. And see, but when we did that with cutting into those stitches there, keeps this from wrinkling. See how that's laying flat now, even though that was like a kind of a sharp turn? That's what that does. Cutting into those stitches, or cutting into that corner, that kind of stitches, gives us that nice, smooth transition on that curve and that sharp ends without it being puckered or anything else. So that's why we do that. Like anyone that's sewed probably already knows that, but thought I'd throw that out there in case you didn't. So here's our bear. We've got our turning hole. Since we left that nice excess piece of fabric at our turning hole, we don't have to struggle with getting enough in there and having like raw edges coming up. So we leave the excess there. So it kind of almost folds in on itself, which makes it nice and easy. So I'm gonna grab a couple clips and my fabric tack. This is like a massacre up here. All right, I'm using just fabric tack on mine. Just use whatever your preferred fabric glue is. I've got my turning hole. I am just gonna run a little bit of glue, about 1/4 inch from the top. In fact, if you feel in there, you'll see where that stitching was from our tack down. And I kind of use it as a guide almost too, as to where to lay my glue. Because I don't want it to ooze out the top. And I'm just gonna use a small little strip. It does not need to be a lot. You can always add more glue later if you feel like it's not laying well for you, but just add a little bead of glue across that turning hole. Hopefully you can see there. And I like to, when I'm done, push it down and pull this out. That way the excess is trapped inside there and doesn't ooze out the top. And then just grab a couple clips to hold that shut while the glue is doing its magic. And that is it. So here's the back side. Here is the front side, and there's our little mask. So, and you see how, remember how we had the topper on there? See how our stitches are still standing out against that fabric? If we didn't, this would all be kind of, because it kind of pushes that fabric out of the way. It doesn't get trapped under there as it's stitching. So it makes for a nice, smooth finish versus kind of getting trapped in that material with those stitches. So hopefully that was helpful. So I showed you guys the wallet for next week. I'll have that up early this week, probably the same time next week too. It'll probably be a quick wallet tutorial because the wallet's going to be super quick. But yeah, any more questions on these, feel free to pop them in the comments. This is the child size compared to that. So see, it's much, much smaller. If I'm in frame there, much smaller. But that's it. So hopefully everyone has a fantastic weekend, or week. Actually, it's Sunday, my goodness. And I will see you all around in the group this week. And then I will see you next Sunday when we make some wallets. All right, bye everyone.